me.
Hello all, Papa here. Before the video begins, I'd just like to extend a warm welcome to all the new subscribers who have chosen to join my channel. I'm truly humbled by just how many of you chose to come over, and I hope you continue to enjoy my channel into the future. And with that said, let us begin. I've had strange experiences since I was a kid, but this was definitely the most terrifying one. I had been living in the Middle East for about 4 years at the time. I got back from work one night, had dinner, watched TV, and went to bed after midnight. I hadn't fallen asleep yet. I'm 100% sure I was awake and aware of everything around me. I was just lying in bed, on my side, one hand under the pillow facing the edge of the bed, and thinking about what had to be done the next day, when I felt something warm near me. The same way you can feel the warmth of a body very close to you, even though it isn't touching you. This thing didn't touch me. It started breathing deeply, so close to my neck I could feel its warm breath on my skin. And it spoke. I can immediately identify the Arabic language even though I can't speak it. But this thing didn't speak Arabic. It was something else. Similar, but something else. And it wasn't like this thing had lips or even a physical body, for the way it spoke was like its voice came directly from the creature's throat and sounded like a growl, very guttural. My reaction was instinctive. I remember the fear I felt down my spine and the scream I let out. I just kicked and punched in the air, pushing myself away from that thing. I was up in a flash and turned the light on. There was nothing there. Of course, my heart was racing. I was scared to death, and I couldn't stop crying. I had to turn the TV on and watch silly cartoons till the sun came up. Later on, I told my partner at the time, he's Muslim, and he was convinced it was a djinn. I'm not a religious person, but I do believe there's more out there than just the things our senses can feel. I have another story from when I was very young. It's not related, but friends also think I've encountered another djinn. If it interests people, I can also share it here. Has anyone experienced a similar occurrence? This is super long, but I swear it is worth it, and 100% true. We are Lebanese and we live abroad. A couple of years ago, we visited Lebanon for vacation. We went to a friend's house which is located on top of the edge of a valley in the southern part of Lebanon. The valley is completely dark at night, and we were all sitting on the balcony, enjoying the nice breeze and good company. We were talking and I remarked how creepy the valley is at night. Turns out, our friend has a story, and the valley has secrets. My friend's grandparents were farmers, and frequently went for walks in the valley for some shade during the day. One time, his grandmother was trailing behind his grandfather, and she heard a rustling behind her. She turned around, and she saw a massive black dog. But something about it was giving her bad vibes. She shouted to her husband to look at the dog, but he kept walking. He didn't turn back and told her to do the same. He told her if she ever saw this dog in the valley and she was alone, to never look at it or interact with it. The dog left after a while, and he told her that this dog is not actually a dog, but something else that guards the valley. It is not friendly and wants people away from there. The valley is huge. A man from the village had entered it years ago, and he found the opening of a cave. This was during the 50s or 60s. If you're not familiar with Lebanon, it's full of underground caves, grottos, and valleys. It's mountainous, and they still find artifacts of ancient civilizations until today. Now, the cave was in plain sight. The guy had never seen it before, and suddenly, there it was, open and inviting. So the man enters the cave, and he is met by a sight that makes him freeze. As far as the eye could see, there was gold and various treasures. Long vases, incense holders, the works. What really stood out were the massive gold and bronze statues of upright bulls with horns, a deity perhaps. Lebanon is part of the land of the ancient Canaanites, who worshipped Moloch, symbolized by a bull, and Baal, among many other gods. So the man, understandably shocked, excited, and thinking he found the treasure of the century, runs out of the cave and into the village to lead everyone to what he saw. A group of men followed him, and he took them to the place where the cave was. Now, the entire village had been to the valley at some point. Nobody ever saw a cave, but the guy was adamant that he found riches that everyone had to see. This man was neither insane nor drunk. He's a respectable man from the village with a solid reputation and a family. There was nothing. He was met by rock. There was no cave, no opening, no gold, no 10-foot bulls, nothing. The guy swore up and down, near hysterical, that he was there, that he entered it with his own 2 feet. He kept insisting that it was there and frantically looked all over, swearing on the Quran that he saw it. But there was nothing, so they couldn't really do anything but leave. If you're familiar with stories of the djinn, they are often summoned for different things. Some like to taunt people. Some do them favors, for a price. Some of them choose people to uncover hidden treasures and riches forgotten by time. The shaggy black dog that my friend's grandmother saw, that was a djinn. The theories are that either the djinn are protecting the cave, or it was playing tricks on the man, or it was all a hoax. But these are solid, hard-working village people. They work to eat, and they don't have time for silly stories and theories, so the valley started to have a reputation. Now, my wife and I laugh and take it all with a grain of salt. Nice, interesting story. But that's about all we thought it was. A bit past midnight, we left to make the 1.5-hour drive back to Beirut. Before you continue reading, there were no drugs or alcohol at all involved in this story. We are Muslim, and we cannot drink alcohol or take mind-altering substances. We are both sound of mind. This is not a joke. I'm driving back down these dark, winding roads, with only the car headlights lighting our path. About 20 minutes into the drive, I see something ahead of me. The thing is, I'm driving, and this animal is not getting closer to the car, despite it walking, supposedly crossing the road. The more I move forward, the more I notice that this thing isn't getting closer. Then I notice the wool/fur, shaggy, ugly, matted wool, hanging down its hind legs and rear as it walked. Its front was covered in darkness. Even though the headlights were on it, I could not see its head or front legs, just a big, ugly back end of a shaggy animal. Imagine a car driving forward and an animal crossing in front of it, except the animal is not moving with the car. It was always like 15 feet away, no matter how the road was winding. The car keeps moving and I start to panic a little. What the hell is this thing? And how the hell is it not getting closer? Then, it just sat on its hind legs, like a person. I kept driving, scared at this point, and it still wouldn't move. I couldn't catch up to it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I thought I was going insane. I tried not to scare my wife, but I was petrified. Then it stood on its hind legs, and I swear to God, it morphed into a human-like figure. Then it disappeared. Nothing but blackness was in front of us. I swear to God. My wife was like, "Did you see that?" And I noticed that both of us had been looking at it in pure shock and trying not to make the other person notice. I didn't say anything while I was looking at it. She saw it. I even asked her to describe what she saw, and she repeated what I saw second by second. I am a grown man, but I was scared in a raw, primal way that I had never felt before. We both felt a deep sense of dread, and both of us couldn't look at the rearview mirror or even behind us until we were on the highway. We felt that there was something in the car with us until we reached the highway. Whatever it was, it is very serious about that valley. I'm convinced it was listening to us that night, and that it manifested itself because we clearly did not believe my friend. Until this day, we both have never seen anything like it. We told everybody, including the friend we were with. He immediately told us that it's the djinn that appears as a black dog. I will never forget what happened. I will always keep repeating the story no matter what. This happened to me. I saw it clear as day, and so did my wife. We were not under the influence of anything. It was not an animal. It was walking right in front of us, but kept moving at the pace of the car. And there is absolutely no reason for us to lie. I've seen a lot of djinn-related posts lately, primarily from military folks. I've been fascinated with these creatures ever since I encountered one. For context, I'm American, and first became exposed to the concept of jinns after living abroad in Muslim societies. I'm non-Muslim and non-religious, for your information. But the most profound exposure was when I first went to Srinagar, Kashmir. I was invited by a friend and was staying at her home. If you don't know the history of Kashmir, you should know that it's the most militarized zone in the world and has had a lot of bloodshed over the years. As beautiful as it is, it's also very eerie as a result. I don't know how to describe it other than being very creepy at night, with lots of weird sounds. Outside of the city, and being in the Himalayas, there's a lot of woodlands where jinns supposedly prefer to live. Anyway, while staying with my friend, I noticed things would happen to me at night. Like my legs or arms would randomly be pulled. I thought maybe I was just jolting myself awake. But it happened multiple times each night, and was out of character for me. Then one night, I felt like I had been choked awake. I was so shocked and confused. The next morning, I finally opened up to my friend and her sister about what I had been experiencing. They told me that because I would sleep in only underwear and a t-shirt at night, it was hot weather at the time, I was possibly attracting a djinn or their house angel, Pasinda. The house angel could be jolting me awake as a way to warn me about not wearing pants, where I could then attract a djinn. I was skeptical but decided to wear pants, and the weird jolting stopped. A few days later, we decided to visit a rural scenic area of Kashmir called Pahalgam. My friend's cousin, my now husband, took us there. When we entered, I started to feel extremely ill. It's hard to describe, but I felt very lightheaded, like I couldn't breathe, and an overwhelming sense of dread and anxiety. I honestly felt like crying and wanted to turn around. We chalked it up to the higher altitude, but I had been to other areas with an even higher altitude in the previous days and had felt fine. After sitting in a restaurant for some time, I finally felt better and we went exploring in the mountains. So I was frolicking in the hills with my now husband, and we were just kissing. First no-no. A bit later, I had to pee, so I found a bush and did my thing. For those Muslims listening to this, I know. Bear in mind, I was a foolish American girl and my husband did not think to warn me. Because let me tell you, you should never pee outdoors, especially in djinn areas, because it's very possible you will pee on them or in their home, and they will get pissed. So yeah, this is where things went downhill. I returned back to the UK where I was studying at the time, a few days later, and I remember feeling absolutely horrible. I was vomiting and just feeling very hazy. I assumed I was just jet lagged and went to sleep. Now, we all know that when you're jet lagged, you pass out. I slept soundly for like 11 hours, not even waking up to pee once. When I finally woke up the next day, I hopped in the shower and my body started to burn, like really burn. I was so confused why my body was burning, so I looked in the mirror. There were deep curved scratches all over my chest, my breast, and my stomach. Some were in threes, which I think is an ode to the devil. They hurt so much and were even a bit bloody. I later found out when a friend looked for me and took pictures that they were also on my back and right above my butt. The one above my butt was one downward curve and then two smaller horizontal curves inside it. And they were in awkward places where I honestly don't think I could do it to myself. I also didn't have nails to make such deep and intense scratches. I'm a very light sleeper and I just don't know how I could have done that level of damage to myself. I showed it to all my friends and they were all deeply disturbed and believed that I couldn't have done it myself. I immediately told my Kashmiri lover, and he told me to recite some verses from the Quran to protect you from jinns. It was believed that I picked up a jinn in Pahalgam and that it attached itself to one of the items I brought from there. Reading from the Quran seemed to stop further activity. I've been to Kashmir many times since and refused to return to Pahalgam. Also, the scratches have never happened again. Of course, sometimes I scratch myself, but they're always very minimal. I've tried to recreate the curved scratches and I just can't. So I'm fairly positive it was a jinn attack. I know several other jinn stories from my Kashmiri in-laws that I'd be happy to share if of interest. Hello watchers and listeners, thank you so much for watching. If you liked that video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. A huge thank you to all the Reddit users who allowed me to use their stories. A link to each story will be in the description below. If you have a story you'd like to share on my channel, please send it to my email, which is also in the description below. As always, thank you all so much for your continued support. I really do appreciate it. And remember, Papa loves you.